Hello and welcome to the next training video in the series. My name is Paul Murphy and this is the Passive Income Ladder SEO Beginner Series. Today we're getting on to WordPress. In the last video, if you haven't already seen that, make sure you go back and watch that. We showed you how to set up your very first WordPress, your very first WordPress site from your host. And once you've done that, you'll get to a page that looks very similar to this. Now, this is a theme that comes installed with WordPress, generally speaking, with most hosts. In fact, I think it does with all hosts. And it's a really basic theme. There's just the one that comes up with it. So it's, as you can see, there's not much on here. But if you click here, you will see that this is your dashboard. Now I'm just going to log out, because actually what you will want to go to is, to get into that bit, you need to go to your domain /wp/login. Now that's the same pretty much everywhere you go. Okay. Now if you remember, I did say don't use the word admin here, because it's the default that a lot of hosts use. So when you're setting up your WordPress site, make sure you change this from admin. For this purposes, I've kept it as admin because it's easier for me just for this, because I'm going to change it afterwards anyway. So then you log in, and then we get back to that dashboard that I actually was on just now. So this is your WordPress dashboard. Now WordPress is a framework, which means that it comes pretty bare, but you can actually install lots of different things on it, called plugins. And the first thing you need to do really is to look at your theme. So we'll go on about plugins in a minute. In fact, I'll go over the whole of WordPress and what you can do with it and how you can get started. So so basically the first thing I do when I install my very first WordPress is I'm going to change that 2015 theme, because it's not very exciting. I actually did install one earlier because I did a test run of this video, but it didn't come out very well, so I'm remaking it for you now, and hopefully this will be a lot better. So when you get into the themes tab, so to get to your dashboard, if you click that, so you're there, and then come down to dashboard. So just to show you that again, because I'm not sure I talked you through that properly. And then to get to themes, you come down to appearance, and then on themes. Now on themes, you would just go to this tab here and click add new. Now to set up your very first site, you can basically you have all these different tabs here to search through themes. Featured, I don't use that. The reason I don't is because quite often some of these are promoted, so people are paying to have these here, so they may or may not be really good themes. Latest, again, I mean, that's just what obviously it speaks for itself. It's just the latest themes that are available, so you could have a look through there. Favourites are what people have made favourite, obviously, but the one that I like to go on is popular, because these are the ones that get downloaded the most, and generally they're pretty good for that reason. So I start there. And what you'll notice, the first thing you'll notice is obviously there's all these different themes. Now these are all completely free. Generally they have a premium upgrade, which costs sort of anything up to sort of $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, sometimes $100. But yeah, generally speaking, about $40 you will get a premium upgrade for each theme. And sometimes, depending on the maker of the theme, you can pay them a bit more and get all of their themes, all of their premium themes. But to be honest with you, the free themes are fantastic. You can pretty much get started with those anyway. So I'm just going to go for today, I'm just going to go for a free theme. Now you can see that they've got 2,219, and you can sort of scroll through how you want. What I like to do is come down, or even start at the beginning you could do, but to be honest, these ones are the ones you get with it, the 2012, 2013. So I'm going to bypass the ones that I know I don't want to use, and I'm just going to click preview here. Okay. Now what you'll notice is that looks different to that. Now that is actually the demo setup, and this is it comes with no demo setup. Every single one of these themes generally will have a tutorial on how to set it up like that on YouTube, which you can Google, or you can go to the makers and see if they've got tutorials there. Whenever I've ever tried to set one up like this, it's been pretty simple anyway. And once you've set up a few WordPress blogs, you'll understand what you need to do in each one, because they've made the framework very similar for all the themes, so it's very user friendly, so you know exactly what you need to do to get that to look like that. But anyway, what you can do is you can go through the themes this way. This is the way I like to do it, because you get to see that versus that, and you see the work you need to do to get going. And sometimes they do have quite a good setup. So that one again, that's actually how it's going to install. So that actually looks quite good. But that's not really what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go through a couple more. So you see, look, that's very different to that, but that's WordPress for you. But then you go, sometimes you get amazing previews, and that's pretty much how it's going to load. This one is very different to that, but you'll notice that where there's a picture, or where they like to put a picture in, they generally put this same boat. So it's quite amusing. You'll see it quite a lot. There it is, look. Okay. Now I have actually got one that I've installed, so I'm just going to get to that one, because that's the one I'm going to use. I've used quite a few of these in some of my other blogs. That looks quite nice. That looks quite nice. Quite nice. I'm just going to pause this until I get to the one that I like. So here we are on Vogue. This is the one that I'm going to go for. As you can see, the actual demo looks well, you can't see, but when I originally installed it and I was going through all the different themes, it looks exactly the same. So I thought that was a good place to start, bearing in mind we don't have to do that much. So I'm going to save, and then if you come up to here, I think it's already done it, but I'll just show you. Just go to your website, and there you have it, Mizofumi. And there you go. I mean, like, all we've done so far is purchase domain and hosting, installed WordPress, and we have a site that already looks like this. And this is all completely customizable. Obviously, all these words can be changed, and you don't need to do an awful lot to have a very good looking website. Which is fantastic. So we'll stick with that for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of all that, because I need to show you a few things. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come down to settings. Now as you notice at the top there, it says mizofumi.net. There's no www. Now the www is something you can actually set up when you actually install WordPress, but if you haven't managed to do it there, you can do it here. And a lot of people come unstuck with this, because obviously when you're building your very first website, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter in terms of Google or SEO or anything, but where it does matter is if you buy a domain of somebody else, an expired domain, and you're setting up the blog, you will need to have the www or not, depending on the metrics of that site. I'll go on to that later. So this is going to come in handy, but I'm going to show you now, because some people just prefer to have it and some people don't. So all you do is you just put it in. Simple as that. And then basically, so that's general settings, and then yeah, ignore all this for now. This I always change to the country that I'm trading in. So if I want WordPress to be a UK WordPress site, I put the site language in there. That actually lets Google know that you're in this country, especially if it's a .com. I mean, in this country we have .co.uk. In America you actually have .com, but we also have .com. So if it was .co.uk, they'd pretty much, Google would know. But if I had a .com, then I could just change that, and that will help Google understand where I am. Another thing you can do, I mean, you can change this somewhere else, to be honest, so I'm going to leave that and I'm going to show you in Customize. So save changes. Now what it's going to do is it's going to kick us out. And the reason it's going to do that is because now it's looking at www, which actually is a different domain to what we logged into. All you need to do, you can click that one actually, but it doesn't matter. All you need to do is just log back in. But as you can see, that is the wrong username. And there we go. And you only need to do that once, and then from there on in, as long as you put the www, you're going to be able to log in as per normal, and it will stay logged in as long as you are logged in and you haven't cleared your cookies. So, right, so the first thing I want to show you is if we go down to the next one, which is Customize. Now this is how you will be able to customize your theme. And this is, it used to have a section in WordPress, I've noticed that it's gone now, where you could customize themes separately from here, but now they seem to put it all in here. And pretty much all of these things will take care of stuff on the site. So I'll just go through a few of them for you. I'm not going to be doing, because this is a beginner's course, I'm not going to be doing an in-depth WordPress course. What I'm going to be doing is showing you how to get your website up and running, showing you what some of the features do. I mean, there's a ton of information out there, and there's no point in me sort of double covering it for you. Basically, what I'll do is I'll get you set up and ready and running, and if there's anything else that you need, you can just Google it, YouTube, you'll find it. So your site title, now obviously, Mizofumi, I'd probably change that to a capital. It's the name of the domain, so it makes sense that it's the name of the site, so we'll leave that. And then you can put whatever you want here, but this is generally your tagline when people first come to your page, and you'll see it changing. You'll see it changing right there, look. So for this sake of this, I'm just going to put welcome to Mizofumi. There we go. And that's that. And then your site icon. Now that I haven't got an icon handy, but what that will be is when you're in your browser at the top, you'll notice that every single one of your websites will have something next to it. Sometimes it's got nothing, but it's got a little bit of paper folded. But quite often they've got something there. You can actually put something in there as long as you make it this size, and it will appear there immediately. So that's really good. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have anything ready for this site. So yeah, that's in your site identity. In your header options, you can, if you want, remove the top bar in this one. I mean, some of these are going to be different as per different sites. And then you've got your top bar there. I think that looks fantastic. I mean, especially if you wanted people to call your business, you'd have all this up here. It looks really good, really professional. So we'll leave that in just for the sake of this. Center align page titles. Well, that's probably not going to change anything, to be honest. Let's just see. No, because we haven't got anything in there. Again, I've not seen this very often, so this will be site specific, perhaps. Menu button text. So this is a text for the mobile menu button. Okay, menu, that's fine. Select this box to hide the site search. We'll leave all that for now because we again, some of this is we're going to understand as we use the actual site, and some of it, until you know what you're doing, there's no point in trying to guess. Right, so default slider. So at the moment, now this thing here is called a slider, and you'll hear this term a lot. And basically, you get quite a lot of these on the front pages of websites, obviously, and they automatically slide, or you can sort of click either side, as you can see. Now, yeah, if that's available in your website, I mean, you can actually set one up yourself in any website, in any WordPress website, but, you know, some of them are better than others. So we'll just change that and see what they look like. That didn't do anything. That didn't do anything. So we'll have the default slider for now because it's quite nice. And past categories you want, again, not sure what that is. I'd have to Google that and find out what they're on about there. So blog options. Now, left layout, right layout, top layout, alternate layout. So we'll just leave that as is for now. I'm imagining, is it going to move that? No. And then blog page, so that's fine. We'll leave that for now. Header image. Now, generally speaking, when you put in a header image, it's going to replace this. This is kind of the text. I actually quite like that, so I'm going to leave that as is. But if you're going to replace the header, obviously the idea is to make the background the same colour. So if you're using a web designer or whatever, then just you need to make sure that you've got that exact colour, because that may look white, but sometimes it's not. And then obviously they tell you what the dimensions you need to do. So at the moment I'm just going to leave that, but that's something you can do. Yeah, it's got more slider options here. Blog option. Oh no, sorry, yeah, I went backwards a bit there. So again, you can change the colour of the website. I quite like that colour, but just to show you, I'm just going to copy that colour because that's quite nice. You'll see colours come up in websites and stuff like this if you haven't done it before, but you can pretty much change. There you go, it changes that. But we quite like that, so we're gonna. And you actually can see if you see that is not pure white. That needs to for that to be pure white, it needs to be FFFFFF. So that was very slightly off white. And if you created a banner that wasn't exactly the same as that, then you'd notice it immediately. So just something for you to bear in mind. Secondary colour, I'm imagining for titles and links, we'll just leave that. That's nice. Font options. Oh, this is quite nice because on a lot of the WordPress things, you need to install specific plugins to actually change the fonts, because the fonts generally are what you're given by that theme. So they've actually, in this one, they've said you can change it, which is fantastic. So let's just change that just to see what it looks like. Okay, so it's not changing that or that, it's just changing it here. Okay, we'll leave it as Nova Sans because they've obviously thought this through and they know that that's the one that looks the best. Unless I had a specific reason to change it, I rarely need to, because they've thought through. I think it was it that one? That looks fine. So yeah, generally they've thought through the style of this, so quite often I leave it. But if you do want to change it, quite often you haven't got this option. You do have to install a plugin, but you'll pretty much find that if there's something that you can't do, there is a plugin for it. And there's generally a free plugin as well. There's so many free plugins now that it's crazy. So you should have no problem sort of customizing it exactly how you want. So website text. Okay, so this kind of all corresponds with what's going on here. So we're not in Cape Town, South Africa, so we're going to put Brighton, UK, because that's where we are. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm not using this website, but might as well set it up as though we're pretending to use it. Now our country code is +44. I'm not going to put my phone number in, but the actual code is 01273 for Brighton, and then I'll just put in what I always see in American movies, 555, and then whatever. Right, so there you go. There's a yeah there. I think we can get rid of that. I probably wouldn't have a yeah there unless it was specifically needed, but they've obviously put that in for a giggle. And then it says Brighton UK down here, theme by Vogue. Now there are ways to get rid of this. In the free theme, they generally want you to keep this in, so they don't give you an option to get rid of it. There is ways around it that you can do it if you really want to. I always think it's a bit rude to do that, because obviously they've given you the free theme so that you give them the credit. But again, if you want to do that, there's nothing, they can't stop you doing that, because the fact is that they're on WordPress, and WordPress is an open source platform, and that means that you can actually customize WordPress exactly how you want, and kind of nobody can do anything about it. So you're quite within your rights to do that, but I just find it a little bit rude. There you go. Okay, so there you go. This error 404 means that if a link is pointing to a dead page, this is what they're going to get. Okay, and then if somebody's searching for something or whatever, it's going to say that. So that's pretty good. So when you just go save and publish, always save and publish. If you change anything, save and publish before you go back, otherwise you won't get it. Social links. So as you see that they've got email address there, Skype, LinkedIn. They've actually put Tumblr on here, which is fantastic because quite often you have to add that yourself. And then Flickr. Now, these are kind of like, if you've never set a website up before, what you just need to do is obviously if you've got a Skype and you want people to Skype you, you put your Skype username in there, put your email address in there, your LinkedIn address there, your Tumblr address. I mean, obviously it's fairly straightforward. But what's really good about this site is that somebody can actually either call you here or they can just Skype you. And as long as you've put that in correctly, it'll go straight through to Skype. So that's really good. I actually think that's a fantastic little feature that they've put in there. Right, so next on here, background image. Again, if you don't want this white on the background, you can put an image and it will kind of lay the website over that. I rarely do that, to be honest. But again, it depending on what you want to do, that can be a very good feature. Footer image says social layout, standard layout. I guess it will just get rid of the social. Actually, yeah. So this is unusual. So basically, by putting standard layout, you've got rid of everything that's on the bottom. Let's remove the bottom bar. I can't actually see a bottom bar, but maybe that's just because we're not. And hide social links. Now, that is actually unusual because normally they still keep their credit down there. But yeah, just for the sake of this, I'll put that back in because that looks quite nice. So menus, menu locations, top bar menu. Right, now menus, I actually don't do them here, but you will probably need to come back here just to select where you want things. But there is an actual menu button in the thing which I'm going to show you in a bit, and obviously your menus is going to be the pages that you want to show up on your site, especially on your home page. So and generally speaking, if you put a menu on, it's going to show up on every page anyway, unless you specifically state otherwise. But so yeah, at the moment you can see there's no menu because we haven't created one, we haven't got any pages, so we'll just leave that because we're going to do that somewhere else. Now widgets again, I don't do widgets here. You can actually add widgets and do stuff here, but there's a whole widget section. So yeah, menus and widgets I don't generally touch here. So we'll just hit save and publish in case we didn't save anything, and then we'll come out. Okay, so that bit we were in was customize. Now as you see, look, widgets and menus are the next two things. Now widgets are really important basically. Now at the moment this will look really alien to you, but don't worry, this is completely normal. Now oh, there was one other thing actually that I didn't do, which on customize, which site identity. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a page, and I'll tell you why. Because sometimes what you want is you want your own thing on the front page. Now the reason for this is obviously it's all well and good having that slider and everything, but if you haven't got any of that and you just want to put something on your front page, what will happen is that by default WordPress generally starts to show your blogs, and you don't always want your blogs because what your blogs are actually under posts. Yeah, so you've got two types of posts. You get posts and pages. Now a page is like a normal website, so obviously you can have as many pages as you want and you can have links pointing to them and they won't scroll or do anything weird. Posts will generally scroll. So if you've got a blog and you want people to see your latest content without having to do anything, then you would go down this route. But if you've got a website, which is, WordPress is just it was generally set up to be a blog, but it's also really good for a website. You would do this, but obviously we've got absolutely no pages at the moment. All we've got is a site with the front page that as per the setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Ms. O Fumi home page. Now you wouldn't necessarily call it that. I mean, that's a pretty dire title really. I wouldn't normally put that on my home page because it's going to be your chance to sell whatever you're doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put welcome to Mizofumi, where the fun begins, or something nonsense like that. Right, so I'm just going to put something in there. Now, this is something to point out here. Depending on how you've got your widgets. Now, I haven't gone into widgets yet, so it's going to be quite confusing, but you might need to just come back to this bit, because I need to sort of describe this while I'm here. If you've got your widgets set up on the right and the left, so you've got things like contact forms and sidebars and everything, if you put in full width, this will ignore all that and just make it a whole page width. And quite often, obviously, you want your contact and all the stuff on the front page, but you don't always want it on your inner pages. So you can generally change that. But obviously, for now, we'll leave it as default template, because what I want to do is I want to show you the widgets. Now, featured image, if you you can set a featured image. If you just put one image on here anyway, it will be the featured image. But if you're going to put lots of images, then obviously, if something's pointing to this page, or if you've got anything that's pulling from this page, it will generally pull whatever the featured image is. I don't actually use it that often unless I really need an image to be pulled. When somebody else puts in my domain, it then comes up with what they call a snippet. And if that rich snippet is using the wrong image, then generally you can put it in there. But you can actually change the snippet somewhere else as well. So just showing you that while we're here. And this is basically, this is how you create a page. And then you can, if you want to, save it as a draft if you're working on it and you don't want it to go live. You can preview it if you want to, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to publish. There we go. And if we go to all pages, we'll actually have a look at the page. You'll see that there's one page there called home page. So if we go to view page, you'll see that that now says Mizofumi home page. Now, if I did want that as my home page, it would get rid of the slider, because the home page is a specific setup where you're not using any other pages on it. So it's going to change it altogether. But you do want to do that quite often. So the reason that I'm showing you this, if you go back to customize, and you have to have created a page before you can do this. I had so many problems when I first started trying to find this static page thing, which is here. That wasn't there a minute ago, and it won't be unless you've got a page. So it will stay like this. So if you go to static front page, it says your latest post. Now, if it says your latest post, it comes up with whatever was here before. Okay, and then obviously if you've got any posts, that will just start scrolling them down here, which will look fantastic. But if you do want to change this to have your static page, obviously at the moment it's not pointing to anything, so I just put Mizofumi homepage. It now, actually it's kept the slider. Sometimes that disappears when you do this, which is fantastic. So we actually did want the slider, so that's great. So welcome to the Mizofumi where the fun begins. So now whatever I put here is static and it will stay there forever. Whereas if I'd left it as it was, every time I create a post, it would say the post name and the date, and then the next post would go above that, then the next post would go above that, and that's how a blog generally works if you've never done a blog. But with this being a static page, this page will always be whatever is on this page. So save and publish, and then I'll just show you something else very quickly. So if you go back to, let's just come out of that. So if you then go back to pages, when you've created loads of pages, it will actually tell you that this is the front page, because I won't normally call that home page. I may call that the title that I'm trying to rank for. So it may well have, you know, motor cars in the Mizofumi area or something ridiculous. So if it, not that Mizofumi is an area, obviously, but yeah. So it may have something that you want to rank for, because obviously you want to sometimes put stuff like that in your SEO, which I'm going to go through when I go through the plugins. Then you won't know what your front page is, and quite often you want to go in and change it. So it does that for you, which is fantastic. Okay, so that's the first thing. So the next thing I'm going to go to is widgets. Now you get all sorts of widgets. At the moment you've got a sidebar, but you've got nothing in it. And on that page, I'm not sure, did I do full width? I'm hoping I didn't. Let's just go edit. Yeah, default template. I didn't. That's great. Because if I had put full width, none of my widgets would show up, which was what I need to show you now. Now, another thing, quick edit. This is where quite often this will be ticked. Now, at the bottom of your page, you can allow comments or disallow comments. Now, generally speaking, you can only do this by clicking quick edit on any of your pages or posts, and you can tick or untick that. But what you can do, and a lot of people don't realise this, it's not that one. Writing. Oh, it's discussion. Here we go. Okay, so you can actually get rid of it from the start, which I always recommend you do if you don't want people to post. I mean, it depends on your website. I mean, it's very, very common now for people to want people to post, because if there's interaction on your website and people are discussing stuff, it's really, really good for SEO. But again, it just depends on what you're doing. So we'll assume that you don't, so that I can show you how to switch it off. Hold on a minute. Allow people to post comments on new articles, so unclick that. Email me when anyone has posted a comment. I don't want that. Email me when comments must be manually approved. So I've actually unticked that and ticked that just in case they get through, but they shouldn't do if you tick that. But I usually tick both. Let's just read the rest of them. I'll get rid of that. That's it. So that should get rid of all your comments on the site, which by default generally are on. So you'll need to do that if you don't want them. Yeah. So going back to widgets. Okay. So we've got, at the moment, quite often you'll get a few things in your widget sidebar. Quite often you get a search and all sorts of other stuff. But what we'll do is we'll put a search in there. I'm just going to show you what some of these things are. We'll put a custom menu in there. Okay, you just click on them and drag them over. What else could we put in here? A calendar. We could put a calendar in here. You can put a text. So if you wanted to put something in a text box. Now, what you can do with this, obviously, you don't have any way of changing the format of this, so it's just going to come out like that, and it will look pretty messy. When you're creating a page, there's two tabs on the page you're creating. There's the view page, and then there's the HTML page. So what you can do is you could create a fake page by using the actual page editor, if you wanted to put something in the sidebar, and then get the HTML code, so that, you know, especially if you don't know anything about coding, and then you can just kind of copy that code in and it'll come up all nice. But again, I can go through that in a later stage, but I just wanted to put that in. I'm not actually going to put a text box in there. So at the moment we've got a custom menu, search, calendar. So if we so if we just press save, we'll call the calendar. No, spelled that wrong. Calendar. Right, and then the search is just going to be search, and then we haven't created a menu yet, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So that's just showing you, I mean, generally speaking, you'll have quite a lot of different areas. In this specific theme, you've just got the sidebar. Quite often you've got the footer, you might have 2 or 3 different types of sidebar. Just depends. And again, you know, you can always go to the manufacturers of the actual blog and see some tutorials on exactly what to do with their widgets, but this is just to show you. So then we go to visit site. There you go. Okay, so it hasn't actually changed any of this, which is great, but what it's done is it's put a search there, it's put a calendar there, yeah, and it would have also put a menu here, but we haven't created one yet. So what we need to do to create a menu, obviously you need pages on your website. So what I'm going to do, Oh, one other thing really important to show you down here in permalinks. Okay, when mine generally comes up like this by default, but the reason is because I've done a few blogs with the same host. But the first time you ever do it, it will generally come up here, or it did used to when I used to start. Now, all this is a permalink is basically how are your posts going to be shown in the search bar. And this, because the reason this is so important to get right is that that is your domain, and anything with a / after that is still part of the domain. And the biggest weight that Google puts for ranking is your domain. So you do not want this weird stuff here. What you really want, I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it. You can see they've laid it out exactly how you do it. Personally, I don't use any of those. Sometimes I do a custom structure, but 99 times out of 100, I'm going to do that, which is sample post, which basically means that whatever you call your page is going to be afterwards there. And if you've got a space, so for instance, it was motor car, it would be motor dash car. And then if you're trying to rank for that word, obviously you're getting a little bit of credit there as well, because it's part of the domain. In fact, you're getting the most credit there. So it's part of the domain. So you need to change that. So we'll do that before we create any pages. Then we come to pages and we add new. Now, I don't usually do blogs, but some people do. It just all depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to do it the way I normally do it. And I'm going to call this motor car. Okay, I'm not going to bother putting anything on here. It doesn't matter. And then publish. And then add new. And then I'm going to put motor bike. Publish. Okay. And we'll add one more. And we'll have motor related. Something like that. Okay, so I can just show you how the permalink and everything works and the menus. So we've done that bit now. So all we need to do is we need to go into, just check all pages, make sure they're all been created. I always just check that. So there you go, there's all my things, and as you can see, that is the home page. Again, we can change it to any of these if we want to, but since that one's called Mizufumi homepage, I think we'll keep it as that. Right, and then we need to go to menus. Okay. So at the moment we do not have a menu, so you can name them whatever you like. This doesn't show up. I just usually do menu 1, create menu. Okay. Now, I'm going to put everything into the menu. Now, this is going to name them based on what you've named them, but obviously if you want to do it slightly different, if you don't want to, for instance, if you want the home page just to say home page, so we won't include that because I don't want it to say Mizuzumi home page. I want it to just say home, right? So we'll leave that one, but what we will do is we'll go custom links and we'll just take that. Because we know that oh no, we've got that twice now. So we know that that is the home page because it's the domain, and it's always, and I'm just going to call it home. So you can add that to menu. And then you've got these pages which are add to menu. I haven't done that yet. And then you can move these are drag and drop, so you can literally just move them around. Motor car. So I'm going to put motor car, motorbike, and motor related. The other thing you can do if you want to is you could have them, if you don't really want a menu and you're trying to save space, or you just want to organise it slightly differently, you can put those like that, and then it will mean that when you come to the home page, it will show you a drop down menu. I'm going to not do that, but what I will do, actually what I'm going to do, because I want to show you how the drop down menu works, let's get that back. That's being weird. Let's just get those back. I'm just going to put I'll put motor related under home. So, and then we'll just move motor car above. So there you go, so I can just show you, and it says sub item there. Now, where do we want these menus? Now obviously you can create as many menus as you like, so depending on what you want to show in your menus, obviously you might want to show this as your primary menu, which is generally your top of your page. You might want to show it in your top bar, you might want to show it on the footer menu. Now the thing is that all of those menus you might not need, but what I generally do is click them all because I want to see where they're all at to start with, and automatically add new top level pages to this menu. Now, yeah, I mean, again, what that all that means is that when you create a page, it's going to add it to the menu. Generally, I don't do that because I like to kind of control my menus myself, and if I forget, it will just clutter up the menu. So save menu, that's that done. Right, then we go to visit site and we should see some menus appearing. There we go. So we've got motor car, motorbike, and then we should have a drop down. There you go. And if I'd have put those underneath, they would have just all come down here. And then you can see that's the top bar menu, home, motor car, motorbike. So I may decide that I just want it up there, which is actually really nice. So I would, in this instance, I think I would keep my main menu, although the drop down on that one is not actually working, whereas it is on this one. So yes, you just have to look out for these sort of things. And oh yeah, what we didn't do, because when we created the widget, it asked us to select a menu because we've got a custom menu, but we haven't actually selected a menu. So if we just put menu 1, and we can just put navigation, for instance, and then save, that should appear here now. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I mean it's showing it as a kind of sub menu rather than a drop down in here. But again, it's different in different things. That's why I like to see what's going on, and then I could make a choice. Do I want it there, all three? And you can generally put your widgets and your sidebars either side, whatever you want to do. So that's just giving you an idea on the widgets and the sidebars. We're sort of 40 minutes in, so I want to wrap this video up because I've got, on the next video, I'm going to go over all the plugins that you can use. But I just want to make sure that we've covered everything in settings. Now, another thing that's quite interesting, again, a lot of people don't go over this. It's writing, not reading. Here we go. Right. Okay. Now, when you put up a WordPress website, this is automatically in every single WordPress site, and all that does is that lets Google know where your site is, and allow it to start ranking your site. Now, you can actually put a load of things here to ping, and I have actually got a whole list of things, and I'll include it somewhere in the course. I don't know if I'll be able to include it on the YouTube thing, but I'll try and see if I can add it as a thing on the Facebook group. So if you join the Facebook group, you should be able to see all the things that you can add. And then there's a drop down. It's kind of quite a long list, and it can ping Yahoo, Bing, and lots of different directories and search engines, which is really, really good. And it's not going to hurt because it's only pinging them. It's not, you might hear scare stories about adding too many directories. It's not good for SEO and stuff like that. It doesn't actually add anything. It just pings them and lets them know where your site is, and then they can choose to add you or not. So yeah, you can put in a big list there. So that's another good one. Just going back to general settings. I think there might have been something. No, we showed you that. That's fine. Reading. Okay, this was the other thing I wanted to show you. While you're setting up your site, you may want to discourage search engines from indexing your site. You can click this. It says it's up to the search engines to honour this request. I've clicked this before and still found it on the search engine, so it's not guaranteed, but it's obviously it's helpful when you're setting up a site. This is as you probably gathered by now, this is all online. So if you're doing any adjustments or any amendments to your WordPress site, make sure you're regularly updating, because nothing is held on your computer. Everything is online. So, it's just another thing to point out. A lot of people don't realise that straight away. This is all cloud-based. You can actually get WordPress that's not cloud-based, but that's not something I use. And yeah, so we won't discuss that. Okay, so permalinks we've discussed. Tools. Available tools, just have a quick look. There's nothing we need to go over there just at the moment. Users, again, if you've got loads of people working on your site, you can create different users and different logins and different levels of administration, so that's good. Plugins, I'm going to go over a whole video on plugins. I mean, there's so much, to be honest, you need an awful lot of plugins to make your site work effectively. Well, actually, you only need a handful, but there's a load out there that you can use, and I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands, and most of the ones that I use, in fact, all of the ones that I use are free. So I'll be showing you all of those to get you going and get you ranking. Okay, and yeah, so themes, widgets, menus, header image, again, we saw that. This is kind of about Vogue. This is actually the Vogue theme, so this will just tell you about that. I'm not going to click on that. Install plugins, and editor actually is very interesting. If you get to a good level, you don't always get this. I think you do get it a lot more nowadays, because WordPress have said, you know, this is open base. People can actually change things as they see fit. You can actually pretty much change anything in here if you know anything about coding, or if you've got, you know, a web designer and you want something to be changed or something to be tweaked. Pretty much anything you can do. This is the editor. I would recommend not going anywhere near this, because you could really damage your site. Or if you are going to play around with it, a little trick that I learned was, say for instance you wanted to change the let's have a look at something here that I would change the footer. Quite often I delete the footer completely to get rid of that theme thing. You can actually just delete all this, but it does actually sometimes mess your site up, because there's obviously some other information in here that could be vital to your site. So say for instance you were going to try, you know, you had a footer that said so and so theme and you really didn't want it. What you could do is you can actually highlight all that, delete it, okay, and then you would update it, and then you would check it out. But if it messes your site up, obviously you're stuffed and you have no idea. So whenever you do anything in here, and whenever I ever do anything, you just open Notepad and put whatever you're fiddling with in the Notepad, fiddle away. If it messes your site up, all you've got to do, put it back in, update file, back where you started. So, you know, that's something to bear in mind if you ever come in and you need to, if you want to have a play with coding, and, you know, you're learning a bit more sort of advanced stuff. Just make sure that you copy all that. That's going to be it for this video. We're up to nearly 50 minutes. That's the longest video we've done. So I hope you really enjoyed it. Make sure you join the Facebook group, because what I'll do is I'll make sure I put those search engines that you can ping in there in a text file, so that you can actually just copy and paste it straight in. And obviously if you've got any questions, the Facebook group's sort of growing. I mean, we're literally 2 weeks old now, and it's growing every day. We're getting a few people join every day. So yeah, make sure you come in and join that and ask any questions, and get chatting to other people about SEO if you have any questions, because everyone's going to be in the same boat. So I hope you enjoyed today, and I'll catch you in the next video.